This is the Capitol Rundown.
For years, defund the police. You don't mind defunding, do you, fellas? Would you vote for a defunder?
She gets us. She sees us. She is us.
We conduct post-election audits where we have a 100% accuracy rate on the equipment itself.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones. From the White House to the State House, Michigan is at the heart of American politics this year. And we start with a visit by former President Donald Trump to the mid-Michigan town of Howell on Tuesday. It was part of a battleground campaign swing designed to counter the Democratic National Convention. Local law enforcement officers, including Livingston County Sheriff Mike Murphy, joined Donald Trump for the political event. The Republican nominee for president said Vice President Kamala Harris is the ringleader of a Marxist attack on law enforcement.
For years, defund the police. You don't mind defunding, do you, fellas? Would you vote for a defunder? Would you vote? By the way, your people that you protect don't want defunders either. But she's been there until just recently. But she's always been for defunding the police, and the person that she's running with, Tim Walz, is equally far left. This is the most far left group. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Howell is a town struggling with its history and present-day identity. A month ago, white supremacists marched through the streets. Trump supporters say they hope this visit can help put an end to a reputation they've tried to beat for so long.
I'm glad he chose here because we kind of need some closure on some of the stuff that has gone on in the past. That Howell is not like that. We welcome everyone. We love everyone. We're a friendly community, and we don't want that bad rap.
But the proximity between the White Lives Matter rally and Donald Trump's campaign appearance was not lost on Michigan Democrats. Attorney General Dana Nessel, Lansing Mayor Andy Shore, and Democratic State Representative Tyrone Carter held a virtual press event ahead of Donald Trump's appearance to contrast Trump's record on violent crime and criticize his decision to campaign in Howell without directly addressing the racist rally held there back in July.
He's in Howell, a place that we know just recently had neo-Nazis marching and specifically talking about the fact that they support Hitler and they support Donald Trump. And you didn't hear Donald Trump try to distance himself from that.
Nessel added that the White Lives Matter rally, quote, is not reflective of the vast majority of the people of the good city of Howell. Now, on Friday, the Detroit Metro Times reported that the Michigan Department of State is now investigating Sheriff Mike Murphy for hosting Mr. Trump at that department. It may have been a violation of campaign finance law. And coming up on the Capitol Rundown, the Democrats held their convention in Chicago last week. We're going to take a look at the speeches and hear from Michiganders who were there. We'll be right back. Republicans and Democrats have now had their conventions, and Election Day is on the way. Late Thursday night, Vice President Kamala Harris took the stage to rally supporters as she fights for the White House. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Hannah Brand has the details.
On the final night of the Democratic convention, Vice President Kamala Harris made a direct appeal to voters.
This election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation.
Over the course of the four-day convention, the Harris campaign and Democratic allies worked to introduce Harris to the American people, highlighting her personal story as a daughter of immigrants and her history as a prosecutor and senator. And they made the case for their new presidential candidate.
She gets us. She sees us. She is us.
We need Kamala Harris. This election is about your family and your future.
The Democrats warned against sending former President Donald Trump back to the White House and framed the election as an opportunity
to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past a chance to chart a new way forward.
Harris supporters say the convention was a showcase of energy and enthusiasm in the Democratic Party. But the race is expected to be very competitive as both candidates work to rally voters ahead of November.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it.
Well, you just saw Governor Gretchen Whitmer speaking on Thursday night at the DNC, and she wasn't the only Michigander to address the delegates. On Wednesday, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel also spoke. Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin did so on Thursday, and Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson was also there.
Trump wants to take us backwards. He admires dictators a lot. He treats our friends as adversaries and our adversaries as friends.
In 2011, she refused to defend California's ban on same-sex marriage. She refused to argue that some families should have fewer rights than other families.
But those are the leaders of the state's Democratic contingent. What about the people watching from the audience?
I'm an educator, and so it's great to have someone that's an educator. I was a coach, so I get it, but also to have Kamala with her wealth of experience from being in California, being the state's attorney, all the different offices that she was there for. She knows how to make the case.
Honestly, I don't think any of us has seen this much excitement since Obama, and this is so incredible to be a part of it. Hillary cracked the ceiling, she's going to shatter it.
Well, coming up on the Capitol Rundown, we have some poll numbers that shed light on how Michiganders are feeling about the electoral process. But first, we're going to find out why Republican Senate candidate Mike Rogers was in Mecosta County last week and what he has to say about a possible EV battery plant project. That and much more is coming up next. Welcome back. In Mecosta County, a China-based company is expecting to build a $2 billion electric vehicle battery plant. That project and others like it have become political battlegrounds in Michigan. On Wednesday, Republican nominee for U.S. Senate Mike Rogers was one of the speakers at a rally against the planned facility. Other Republicans at that rally included Congressman John Molinar and Michigan GOP chairperson Pete Hoekstra.
Washington, D.C., that's Lansing, that's Democrats saying, we're going to force this down your throat. We're going to force you to buy this car. We're going to force the companies to build this car. And we're going to force this community to take a battery factory that nobody in that chain wants.
Now, the former U.S. Congressman adds that there are things that can be done at the federal level to stop the plant, including interfering with the visa process. Rogers and others have brought up the idea that the company will use this opportunity as a way for the Chinese Communist Party to get into America. At a rally just across the street in support of the plant, Goshen's Chuck Thalen had this to say.
It's silly that I even have to say that, but no, we don't talk about politics in this company ever.
Now, according to a statement from the Michigan Republican Party, candidate Donald Trump is, quote, 100% against the EV battery plant. Now, at the rally, Rogers called out his competition for the Senate, Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin, by saying she signed a secret non-disclosure agreement with Goshen. In response, a spokesperson for the Congresswoman said it was a completely false attack and that she never signed any agreement related to the Goshen project or the Chinese government. The statement calls it a desperate attempt to change the conversation from Rogers' alleged history of profiting from China-connected companies. Well, coming up next on The Rundown, our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic will be here to dive into everything Michigan politics. But first, some Michigan voters are feeling unsure about the electoral process, and clerks are working to put those fears to rest. We'll have all the details on that when the Capitol Rundown returns. As Election Day gets closer, doubts about the integrity of our electoral process are growing louder, particularly among Republicans, and that's according to a new poll. But one Republican election clerk in Michigan is trying to persuade his fellow party members to trust the process. As Adriana Diaz reports, it's an uphill battle.
Late summer on the eastern shore of Lake Michigan is a slice of serenity. Unless you're discussing elections, then forget about smooth sailing.
We have to beat a corrupt voting system.
Residents are sounding off at a commission meeting about voting in Ottawa County.
There has just been much distrust sown into the system.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States?
Justin Roebuck, the Republican who runs elections here, is no stranger to the skepticism.
Do people still think in this area that the 2020 election was stolen?
We talk to people who do still have really serious concerns and who are not really trusting the process.
That distrust was on display during local elections 2 weeks ago.
Do you have complete trust in elections here? Eyebrow raise.
Sure, yeah.
Even though the officials say that the election was not rigged, that there wasn't widespread fraud?
It's hard to trust sometimes.
These are the people who Roebuck is trying to convince that the data doesn't lie.
We conduct post-election audits where we have a 100% accuracy rate on the equipment itself. So that is a really great thing to be able to talk about.
100%?
It's a 100% accuracy rate.
Not 99?
It's not even 99.
It's really hard to do a job where you know you're doing everything right and be attacked.
It's a distrust that helped push former township clerk Teresa DeGraff to retire.
Everyone that works those are your friends, your family, your neighbors. And do you really believe that all those folks would try to cheat you?
Republicans are half as likely as Democrats to say they're very confident in the accuracy of the state's election system.
That's according to a new CBS News poll, which also found 32% of Republicans were not confident in their state's voting system, as opposed to only 8% of Democrats.
The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election.
So far this year, former President Trump has said the election system is rigged more than 140 times, despite dozens of audits and lawsuits that found no fraud in 2020.
If we cannot trust the way that we choose our government, we are in a bad situation as a country.
That's why this Republican is working on restoring that trust.
Please feel free to come out. We're here from 9 to 10:30 this morning.
With demonstrations on how voting machines work.
We are essentially testing the accuracy of this equipment.
And confronting officials who allege fraud.
It has been proven ballots are coming in from outside sources that are not from voters.
We have not seen any evidence at all.
With the presidential election just months away, clerks like Roebuck.
You know, we live in this community too. We shop here, our kids go to school here, we go to church together, and we need to be able to build those bridges.
Are trying to rebuild that trust, one voter at a time. Adriana Diaz, Ottawa County, Michigan.
Well, as you saw earlier, Michiganders were in the spotlight at the DNC, and our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic talked to the Rundown's Jorma Durand about the political future of Governor Gretchen Whitmer and more.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, among the many people getting camera time at the DNC last week was Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Where does this put her on the map of stars for the Democratic Party?
Oh, she's up there with Jupiter and Mars, I think. Look at this was quite a get for this governor. I've covered a lot of Michigan governors, and many governors have had an opportunity to speak at a national convention, but none of them have been prime time like this. If you noticed over the week, a number of governors had speaking slots. The worst slot was to speak on Monday. Tuesday's a little better. Wednesday a little bit. Thursday, the climatic final day, just 2 speech slots away from the main star. That's what the governor had. She had about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. If you blinked your eyes, you missed it. But basically what her message was, which was also picked up by the candidate for president, Ms. Harris, is that the governor was not speaking to the choir there in the convention hall. She was speaking to the boys and girls, the independent voters, the moderate voters, the Republicans out there in TV land, to basically say that Donald Trump is not one of us, and Ms. Harris is.
Well, guess what? Former President Trump was in Howell last week to make a speech on public safety and immigration. It's something his base obviously loves to hear, but is it effective with anyone else?
Well, look, Mr. Trump has to do something, and coming to Michigan apparently is one of his things. In fact, somebody pointed out the other day, he's also coming to Detroit on Monday. If he makes a couple more visits, the state may try to collect the non-resident income tax from Mr. Trump because he's been here so often. So why is he here? Obviously, everybody's been reporting this till you're blue in the face. Michigan is a pass-through state that you have to win. It's the road to the White House. So he was in Howell. It drew some criticism from the Democrats that he picked a town that had a rather checkered past vis-a-vis its relationship or non-relationship with the Ku Klux Klan. Debbie Stabenow, when we spoke to her this week, pointed out that the town has basically cleaned up its image, and here comes Mr. Trump to dredge all of that stuff over again. Mr. Trump and his supporters, like the local sheriff of Livingston County, defended the visit, saying that Howell is not racist. There may be some people there that have ill wills of other races, and that's generally everywhere. But Mr. Trump wanted to make his presence known in Michigan, and he'll be back in Detroit. And my guess is we'll see he and Mr. Vance, the vice presidential candidate, in our state quite often. And ditto for the Harris ticket as well.
Thank you, Tim and Jorma. Well, coming up, if you're tired of politics, we have a possible cure for you: cheesecake, and a lot of it. We're going to tell you how much was consumed at this year's DNC thanks to a Chicago institution. Stay tuned for that and much more. Well, if there's one thing that can cross the political divide, it's cheesecake. And when you're in Chicago, like the DNC was, there is only one place to get it: Eli's. The famous Eli's Cheesecake Company of Chicago served not one but two giant cheesecakes, each one weighing 1,000 pounds. And they didn't stop there. Eli says convention goers ate more than 5,400 pounds by the end of the week. And if you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, we have just the thing for you. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just one email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera at the screen right now, and it will take you to the sign-up page, or you can head to WLNS.com/newsletters. And that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching the Capitol Rundown. See you soon.